Hello, and welcome to How We Made That App. I'm your host, Madhukar Kumar. After starting my career as a developer and then as a product manager, I am now the Chief Marketing Officer at SingleStore. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Dave Eyler, Senior Director of Product Management at SingleStore. Across Dave's extremely impressive career, he has held product roles at Apple, ThoughtSpot, Databricks, and more. Dave, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Madhukar.
Let's start with a question that I get asked quite a lot. Dave, how do you pronounce your name?
My name is Dave Eyler.
Got it. Got it. It says here that you have an MBA from Columbia. At what point did you wake up in the morning and decided you needed to waste your parents' money?
It's funny. Looking back on it, I think it's different than the way I look forward on it. But I guess for me, I wanted to join the dark side, as you put it, and I was a software engineer, and I thought, hey, maybe if I get an MBA, that'll be a way to switch careers, and it did serve that purpose. So I suppose it wasn't a total waste.
I was a terrible software engineer, which is why I became a product manager. Is that why you also became a product manager?
Yeah, all those bugs, man, and it's like they're not going to be my problem anymore. What a dream.
So it says here that you're a senior director of product management at SingleStore. For our audience, can you tell them what is product management? Is it a fancy name for project management?
There is a little bit of project management in there, but I wouldn't say that's the main thing. You're kind of the hub. You got to speak every language. You got to be able to understand customers, what they want, figure out their real needs. You got to be able to work with the engineering team to build those things. You got to be able to work with the marketing team to sell those things, with the finance team to figure out how to price and package them. So that's one of the things I like about it is I get to have the fun of working in a lot of different disciplines and with a lot of different people.
Other than having to use JIRA every day, what are some of the other challenges product managers currently face? And when do you think your role will be replaced by an AI chatbot?
I mean, it's funny, AI chatbots. I actually, I'm thinking back on my software engineering skills when you say that, and I'm remembering probably a little better. Like I think I was better than I was, but they've definitely degraded over the years. And what I've found is now that ChatGPT exists, and our Squirrel Bot, which is our incarnation of it, I'm able to be like a SQL and Python master again. Like I can get in there and stuff that I would struggle with and take me forever to figure out. I just asked the bot, like, what's wrong with this SQL, and it pops the answer out. So it's pretty incredible.
So instead of telling engineers how to code, you're now telling a bot. Tell us more about Squirrel Bot.
Yeah, Squirrel Bot is our generative AI application single store that is trained on our own data, our own docs, and the single store itself. So that in addition to all the goodness that you can expect of GPT, it knows our product super well. And it's integrated in there. Like you could talk to it and be like, fix this Python code for me, and then push a button and it'll just put it into a notebook cell. So it's pretty incredible.
And how do you know if it's generating the right answers for the users?
You send it to people and then they yell at you when it's wrong. Nah, I'm kidding. But you do. It's funny. One of the drawbacks of the GPT is the occasional hallucination. But I'll take 9 out of 10 great answers and realize that I got to be extra careful to fact check uh, rather than say, oh, I'm not going to use it because it's wrong every once in a while.
I was a product manager and I used to use Jira a lot. So if Jira suddenly ceased to exist tomorrow, do you think product managers around the world would be out of jobs, or will there be a spontaneous collective celebrations across the world?
People rag on Jira. Jira is like the ultimate like Swiss Army knife. It's not good at anything, but it can be made to do anything. And like I think there is power in that. So I don't, people make fun of JIRA, but JIRA is actually, I think, a pretty impressive piece of software if you overlook the maddening nature of it at times, which doesn't.
So you are a Jira fanboy. I get it.
Uh,
What is SingleStore and how are you helping customers to develop modern enterprise applications? And remember, before you answer that question, a wrong answer could get you fired.
No, like I've never been asked this before. I actually like working at SingleStore because our product is so differentiated. We've got this incredible real-time analytics use case where we can ingest ultra fast, tons of transactions, write data into SingleStore, do analytics on them at the same time, and serve applications. This is not a thing that is out there. So we solve this need that is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. I want to have real-time analytics. I want to do real-time operations. I want to make smart decisions as, data grows and companies get smarter about data and their operations. Like, this is only going to increase. And so the thing I love about SingleStore is it's actually an incredibly differentiated product and solve like a real need for our customers. So that's definitely one of my favorite things about the job.
And even I've worked across multiple database companies. We all know that there's over 300 databases out in the world today. What makes SingleStore different or special? You touched upon it, which is a combination of analytics and a combination of transaction. But in general, if you were to talk to somebody who didn't know about SingleStore, what is the main use case or the value that gets driven out of if you're using something that has both analytics as well as transactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the best way to understand it is to look at the different use cases. So you have a lot of different applications and domains where you're generating a huge amount of data and you got to do analysis. You got to ingest it super fast and you got to do analysis on it super fast. So these are things like maybe I've got stock trades that I want to watch and I want to watch my system for how fast they execute. Maybe I've got a network that I want to watch for security intrusions, or that I want to make sure that it's super fast and it's functioning well. Maybe I've got an ad campaign and I'm wanting to optimize the different ads that I show and react super quickly when certain ones are performing when others aren't. I go on and on and on. It's basically like something's happened super fast. It's got high business value and you need to react to it and do analysis on it really quick. There's a lot of databases out there that will ingest fast, but it's the minute you try to do any kind of query where you're looking at over history or looking for trends or analysis, it's just like snooze fest. Gets really slow.
So, is that all the applications today, or do you think that is true only for certain applications where you require analytics in a very split second manner?
I think that there are there are applications that don't need analytics. Like, we're doing this podcast right now, and I mean, it's okay if we don't get a trend of like analysis over how the podcast is going. So, it's not every application, but I think there's tons, and it's growing more and more, the use cases for this type of analysis. And it's funny, like AI has triggered this now because the AI is powered by these vector nearest neighbor queries that definitely require real-time analysis, and we perform super well on. So what we're finding is the more and more and more applications are demanding this kind of super fast ingest and the ability to do analytics on it in real time.
Speaking of AI, and you've been in the database industry for long, what is the future of databases? And feel free to use AI at least 100 times.
I think databases, I think, are a means to an end. And the way I look at the database space is, in the beginning, before the cloud, there was another platform shift before AI, was the cloud computing shift. There weren't a ton of databases. You had Oracle, you had SQL Server. They're multi-purpose. They can do a ton of different things. And what happens is you have a platform shift, like cloud computing, and everything fragments into a million pieces. There's a million players doing every little different thing. Like, I can do this well in the cloud. I can do this well in the cloud. And I think we're converging now to where it's like customers, they don't want to have a million databases. Like, they want to have, the smallest number of databases they can and serve all their use cases. And that's really the power of SingleStore, that like this vector analysis use case, it's not like we had to go build a ton of stuff to make it work. We already had it because we're a super powerful database, shared nothing, distributed, and just purpose built for speed. And, we're making some improvements to support those use cases. But the beauty of it was already there because we want to be that general purpose database in the new world, in the cloud computing platform, in an AI world. And we think we're very well positioned to reach that goal.
And in general, with AI, where do you think databases are headed? Are you seeing more real time use cases with AI? Do you see more semantic kind of searches or combined or hybrid? If you were to make a bet, what would you bet on in terms of features for databases in the next few months to a few years? And how are you shaping it at SingleStore?
Yeah. So what we're looking at is a lot of queries that are around vectors are really just like huge lists of numbers. And what you want to do is you want to do analysis on those numbers and you want to find the nearest match to the number you're looking for. And you want to multiply them together in order to get these dot products, which is kind of what the word mean. Like, the word because to GPT is like a gigantic list of numbers. That's its value of it. And, the words like breakfast and dinner are both meals will be similar lists of numbers when you multiply them together. That's how you compare these things. And these types of queries are going to become more and more popular in AI use cases because GPT and these generative AI is going to be behind all of these different apps. So all of these apps are going to have to do this and do these types of queries, which luckily for us perform extremely well in SingleStore. We're well positioned for that.
So, going back to product management in your earlier database days, where do you think the application development is headed? Do you think it's every single application that we have today, they'll have a generative AI component or they will all turn into generative AI? Or what do you see in the market today?
I'm wary of anytime you get hype cycle, it's like everything will use this. I don't know that AI will be in every single application, but I can tell that the applications that I use, like almost any application, it's going to be, there are areas when it's hard to use. And we're living in a world where it's like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to Google stuff. I'm going to look through the docs. I have all these bad solutions. I got to call somebody. There is nothing like typing your question into a bot and getting a good answer. We've been getting bad answers for decades. Like, I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar with like everybody is like, say they has chatbots. Now the chatbots work. So I think that, any application that is not like a search box and nothing else, it has some complexity to it, can be made tremendously better by having a text interface that works super well that'll help you with that application. And so I do see tremendous amount of possibilities for this technology to be used across a ton of different apps.
And do you see the current hype cycle or trend different from the past or with cloud or with even crypto? Or do you think it's very similar?
Crypto, I was always skeptical of. Like, I don't get it. Like, I mean, I get the Bitcoin and like, okay, like now this is like the Bitcoin itself, like that one, I can see, okay, it's good to have money that's outside of the government. It's kind of shady, maybe a little bit, but I never was a believer in crypto. Cloud computing is a big one. I think this is the biggest thing. AI, generative AI, GPT is the biggest thing since the the iPhone. I think probably maybe bigger, maybe since the internet. Like it's going to change a tremendous amount of the experiences that people have. And I'm super excited. I haven't been excited about a platform shift like this in a long time.
Have you been using ChatGPT yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned one use case. It's incredible at writing code. So like now I'm back to like my like in my 20s when I was, making bugs and blaming them on other people. I'm now at that level or better. Also I like it. I read a lot of blogs, and including for SingleStore, and it's fun that I can kind of take my text, blobs of it, and put it in there. And I just say like, make it better. And I don't take all the edits, but like I take a lot of the edits. I sound so good, when I write that. So I think helping me use software, helping me write code, helping me make my blogs better. I mean, those are just three that I use. And we're just scratching the surface. This stuff's just going to get bigger and bigger.
What was the first question you asked of ChatGPT? Because that tells a lot about someone.
No, my son asked me, like, he's got all these questions about history that he asks all the time. And I think I probably started asking like world history questions to just like get a sense for like, is this thing smart at all? Like, I don't know what was asking about like the Roman Empire or something, probably something like that.
I asked what is product management and still couldn't answer my question.
Product management is amazing because it changes so much from company to company. Like it really depends on your culture, like who does what. Product management a lot of the times is like the glue that hold things together. You're responsible. You know, I like to tell people on my team, like if it's like there's a story of like the kid with his hand in the dike, right? Like a dam with like a leak in it. And I'm like, if you see a leak, if it's one of your jobs as product managers, you rush in when there's a problem. If you see a leak in the dike, you better do it yourself and plug that. And then you're going to build the system around it that'll free you from having to do that. And then you're on to the next problem. So that's one of the fun things is that like the variability of the job is just all over the place.
Do you remember the first feature or the first product that you worked on and started with an idea and ended with an actual feature that was part of your product?
Yeah, let's see. If I go to the Wayback Machine, I guess the first software product I worked on as an engineer was a Palm Pilot app called Business Trip Pro. It was like actually a company I founded, and it was like kind of like Trip It Now. Like if you remember, if you know what that is, keep track of your business travel. That was the first one that I did as an engineer. The first one I did as a PM was I used to work at a company called Sling Media that now is known for Sling TV. But back then there was a thing called a Sling Box that you put on your TV and they let you watch it in other places. And my first product manager product was the iPhone app that lets you kind of watch your TV wherever you are. And this is before I mean, today you can just watch whatever you want, whenever you want. But back then there were all these rights issues. So you couldn't get the good stuff on your phone.
Did you ever work on a feature or a product that's still around other than SingleStore?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that those products I just said are still around. I mean, the apps exist. They're direct from the cloud now. They're not from the Slingbox. I worked on at ThoughtSpot. I worked on ThoughtSpot Everywhere, which is an embedded analytics product. At Apple, I worked on App Analytics, which is now part of App Store Connect. So let developers see like what's going on with their apps without instrumenting anything. Databricks, I worked on Databricks Partner Connect, which is kind of their partner platform for like making it easy to integrate with other partner products. So yeah, luckily a lot of my stuff is still out there.
And over the years, how have you seen both product management as well as application building evolve over a period of time? Do you think it's drastically different than what used to happen a few years ago? Or is it more or less the same, but there are nuances? Is it easier, faster? What are some general things that you feel are different because of the evolution of how we build products?
I think back in the beginning, it was much more like the product manager is like really setting all coming up with the ideas and setting the direction themselves. And over time, as like, I think like, engineers and designers have gotten more involved. It's much more collaborative. People are coming up with different ideas. Like I like to tell my team that it's like you coming up with the great idea of what the product should do is like the least optimal outcome. Like it's like better for it to come from customers or from the engineers themselves or the designers. Like that is, you want to bring like the context and the understanding to your team and help them ideate. Hackathons are great. The thing we never used to do. So many features come from hackathons now. So I think it's become much more collaborative of like, where the strategy and the ideas and the direction are coming from, which is very cool.
So when you think about the product strategy for the next 1 year or next 5 years, what does a typical thinking process look like? Do you just walk into a hackathon and they'll say, let's see what comes out at the end of the day?
Well, there is that. So there's the bottoms up ideas. You got to have strategy on top of that for sure. That's a different process, and that comes from talking to customers, understanding the landscape, understanding what the different products are out there, and understanding the needs of the business. And so you want to have that bottoms up approach because a lot of the best ideas come from that. But you also have to have the right strategy to focus the team in the right direction to do what the company needs and what customers want. Hopefully you're meeting in the middle. You have like that kind of top down strategic force and also the bottoms up innovation force.
So when it comes to top-down strategic force, do you typically start with an existing customer need, or do you have a vision of where do you think this market will be and how would your product differentiate and then come up with ideas? How do you prioritize where the entire focus of the team would be for the next, let's say 1 year?
I like to look at a few different things. I like to gather as much customer feedback as I can. I do that in a few different ways. So one of the things we do is our customer advisory board where we bring all the customers together and we get them talking. We show them some ideas and we also get them talking about what they want. So that's a great source. Another great source, and this is my code writing that I do now, is I've got like a kind of mega customer query that I use to see all this different data about all of our different customers, how they're using our product, the kinds of support tickets they log, how many like hours they of compute hours they burn, like their different characteristics. So I'm looking for patterns and like what our customers are doing, what they're saying, in a more kind of data driven way rather than just talking to them and seeing that as well. And also just looking at, you gotta have your eye on the trends and see what's going on in the news. This generative AI thing is a thing that you're not going to get from talking to your current customers because it's all so new. Everybody's doing it. So you gotta also watch, like what is in the news and what are the new trends? What are developers doing? That's always a great way to see, because they'll pick it up first. Developers will pick up the new trends before anyone.
Speaking of data analysis that you were just talking about, machine learning, data sciences in general, how do you see that changing both now, a few months from now, and a few years from now, especially in the light of databases, generative AI, and so on?
I think the tools are just proliferating more and more to allow customers to do more and more on their own. One of the things I'm excited about SingleStore's products, we've introduced our notebooks, and all of a sudden you have the ability, to run Python and SQL in the notebook form. And we're also going to be adding some really cool features where you can call these things from the database engine, call their libraries. And so the tools to do machine learning are going from what was a very small group of specialists who are just kind of, eking out on these neural nets. And you also see other, products in the tool chain like Hugging Face, like Dataiku, that are making these things available to more and more practitioners. And so it's going to go from where only a small number of developers were able to utilize this to more just as like a standard part of your developer toolkit. Like, of course we use AI and ML where it's appropriate.
So I know I've had a couple of very fresh out of school engineers come to me and say, how have you transitioned from being an engineer or developer to product management? If somebody asked you that question, what would your advice be? And, keep in mind again, in the near future as well as in the longer term, AI is going to change things considerably. So if I was an engineer and I said, hey, Dave, I am looking to become a product manager, what advice would you give me?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is a question that I get constantly. Like, I think a lot of the role appeals to a lot of people because of like the nature of what I was talking about. You get to work on so many different things. You get a lot of ownership over success. And a lot of people that's really appealing to. Definitely is for me. I think the best way to transition into product management is you got to understand how software teams work and you got to have some kind of role. Like the product manager is in some sense the leader of the software team. And like the software teams don't want to follow somebody who doesn't know anything about what a software team does. So if you can write code or be a designer or a tester or do something that is being part of a software team, you can kind of watch what the PM does. This is a lot of how I learned it. And in terms of AI, well, like software teams are using AI more and more. So like having that knowledge is critical if you're going to be if you're going to have influence over a team. You got to be well versed in these things, and otherwise nobody will want to listen to you.
Why is that appeal? Because I have thought about this quite a lot, and I'll tell you my experience as well. But why is that? Why do you think a lot of engineers or a lot of folks in general want to become product managers? What is that appeal?
At least for me, it was like, I don't know. I always had so many ideas of like what the product should do. And like, I don't know, maybe one of my PMs was not very nice when I was an engineer, but it was like, he didn't use these exact words, but this is like the phrase that makes sense in my head. It would be like, Dave, like focus on the keyboard, like, do that feature I asked you for and like, let me like figure out what the product does. And I'm just like, well, I want to figure out. That's like, that sounds like a lot more fun than just banging out these features. Like I want to have a bigger scope. So, I think that, just it's a creative act, right? Like software is a creative act, but it's like at least in from my perspective, I get more out of it the bigger the thing that I'm creating is, and you can only code so many features yourself. Whereas if you can kind of like be a part of the creation of the wider product, then at least more rewarding from my perspective to get involved in more and more.
Yeah, personally, my draw was I enjoyed telling people what to do, still do. And
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, like one of the most important skills is how do you influence people without them thinking that you're telling them what to do? And that is like, that's one of the things that differentiates like the rookie PMs from the grizzled veterans is like, it is it's an influence game and you just like, you get better and better at it over time.
so, given your background as well as experience in databases, and you're a veteran in telling people what to do, have you considered joining Gartner?
Yeah. Oh my God. Only like if you had to rank like what I would want to do in the tech world, that would not be top of the list.
Okay,
Always.
let's move on. And now we're in the last section. Let's do some quick hits. So let's talk about a few things that we don't know about you yet. If you were to make an app today, and you could think of any app in the world, and you had unlimited resources, what app would you build?
I mean, it would definitely have some AI on it. I'm fascinated with generative AI, so it would be related to that. Um, I I do, and I love databases. Like, maybe something it's like talk to the database. I don't know, something like that, maybe.
Great. In terms of using apps or software on a day-to-day basis, which one do you use the most? And keep in mind the right answer is SingleStore.
I mean, obviously, I just told you about my mega query. I use it all the time. I'm kind of weird in that I've jammed things into my calendar that is like not normal. I've realized like my calendar is also my to-do list, and I have like this big like that's like my system of not forgetting things is revolves around like huge numbers of meetings that don't block my calendar and get moved around. So I also have this ideas around like a new kind of productivity calendar app that meets my needs. Might be something that I was interested in.
What do you do when you're not telling other people what to do or working on product management?
I got my wife and my two sons. They're 4 and 8. We enjoy. The oldest is into soccer right now. They're both like Roblox a lot, so there's a lot of Roblox and Minecraft sessions. Like to go out to dinner with my wife, hang out with my brother and my friends, play poker a lot. Been doing that more and more.
Last question. This is something I struggled with quite a lot as well. How do you lie to your parents when they ask you what you do for a living?
My mom said to me, "I shoot you not," a few days ago, like David. She calls me David. I don't understand what you do, but I just want you to be happy. Yeah, I'm happy. Mom. It's great. Love SingleStore. She's like, awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, David. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed learning more about what you do and a little bit more about project management. So
Thanks.
thank you again. And that brings us to the end of the show.
All right. Great to chat, Madhukar.